Danya Perry is a former federal prosecutor, former New York State Deputy Attorney General. David Henderson is also a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, and they both join me now. It's great to have you here. I thought, those clips we played and the closing arguments in general sort of distilled down, I think, the essence of the case, even independent in some ways of the law, which I think we'll get into, which is, Rittenhouse, that moment that we all see in the video when Rittenhouse is on the ground and he has the gun and he shoots up. Clearly he is, at some sense, defending himself. He's on the ground. There's someone over him, one of whom has a gun. But also that situation was produced by the fact that a whole crowd thought that there was an active shooter and that he was it and was going to try to do the right thing. And David, what is that cash out in the law? Like that argument that in some ways precipitating the incident vitiates the self-defense, your right to self-defense. Like, what does the law say about that?
I mean, Chris, you're hitting the nail on the head. And honestly, you can even keep the argument tighter with regard to what Rittenhouse did. And that is, gun owners understand you can own a gun, you can carry a gun. What they don't seem to understand is you cannot threaten people with your gun. The moment you point your gun at someone, you have now committed a crime, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and that person has the right to self-defense. That started with Rosenbaum. And Rittenhouse said, well, I shot him in part because he's reaching for my gun. Well, you pointed your gun at him, claiming that you had to use lethal force to stop him. And I think the legal analysis really begins there, but it became very muddled over the course of this trial, and it makes me concerned about the verdict.
Yeah, Danya, that point about, that's sort of in some ways the enraging tragedy of this entire thing, which is that almost every actor, and including Kyle Rittenhouse, at least in those discrete moments, has a plausible claim that they were trying to defend themselves. Rosenbaum reaches for the gun because it's pointed at him. Then Rittenhouse gets to say, well, he's reaching for my gun, so I was defending myself. And then the crowd says, well, he just shot someone, go stop him. And then he's on the ground. And so you've got this set of incredibly horrific, violent acts, each of which have some plausible claim to self-defense.
Yeah, that's a great distillation of this trial and of this problem more broadly. The issue here is, did Mr. Rittenhouse act reasonably in self-defense? And also, did he provoke, or as the prosecutor put it, create the very danger that eventuated here? And that's exactly what you can't do. In Wisconsin, you can own a gun, you can carry it openly. You cannot create a danger and then claim that you're acting in self-defense. So that's the essence of it. And it is a true jury issue. It's interesting that the facts are very few facts are in dispute here. There was video, there was testimony, and there are some places where the video may have been grainy, and that may be a question for the jury to determine. But at the end of the day, it really will come down to those two questions. Did Kyle Rittenhouse act reasonably? And did he provoke this entire situation? Did he cause the very trouble that is at issue in this trial?
Yeah,
and it's a tough issue for the jury to decide. I think you can never predict what a jury will do, but it may be a tough one.
Yeah, it seems to me that from the amount of trial I've watched, the analysis I've read, that it's in some ways actually a hard case for the prosecution to make, for a variety of reasons. That hasn't necessarily been made easier either by the judge or by the prosecution's own performance. Is that generally your sense, if you had to sort of distill a top line here, David?
Yes, Chris, from the get-go, I didn't think this was a winnable case.
Yeah.
I feel better after closing arguments today, but I didn't until closing arguments. And here's part of the problem. The overarching themes here are not simply self-defense and whether or not Rittenhouse beliefs were reasonable. Indirectly, you're putting the police on trial in this case. They saw him out there. One of the charges that they had was for him unlawfully carrying a rifle. The police saw him out with the rifle. They passed out water to him. He ran down the street holding the assault rifle after he shot 3 people, killing 2, and they didn't even stop him and question him. Yeah. Indirectly, you're putting the police on trial. You are also putting gun laws on trial. And so in this case, what's consistent with the other cases that we currently see in the news is people who believe in those laws and who believe in the police, and the police are being taken for granted these days, are likely to vote to acquit Kyle Rittenhouse for reasons going far beyond the legalities of this specific trial.
What do you think, Danya?
I agree with a lot of what David said, but it is, as we see on Twitter and we see in public debate, it's a polarizing case. And so while there may be some jurors who go in that direction, there may be others who will be troubled. In this case, the judge took away with one hand. He took away a misdemeanor count at the very last minute, but he gave with the other hand, and he allowed lesser included offenses to be charged. And so you could very well see, again, I hate to be in the prediction business when you've got a jury deliberating, but you could very well see a hung jury here or a compromise verdict.
Can I stop you there for 1 second? I just want to follow up on that because I didn't actually understand that, and I watched that happen today. So he takes away the weapons charge, which seems like clear cut. I mean, he was definitely holding that weapon, right? Cited an exception to the law dealing with hunting, the age of the defendant, the length of the barrel, which apparently was not long enough to qualify for the offense he'd been judged with. And then he said they consider lesser charges and whether he provoked the attack. Danya, what does that add up to?
So you're absolutely right. The sixth charge, which was the misdemeanor unlawful possession of a weapon count by a minor, seemed to have been a slam dunk. He was, of course, underage. He was, of course, carrying a rifle. So that should have been an easy win for the prosecution. The judge, citing what he believed to be a certain murkiness in the law, dismissed it at the very last minute, not giving the prosecution an opportunity to appeal that. So that is gone, and that cannot be the basis for a compromise verdict by the jury. The judge did allow lesser included offenses with respect to two of the charged crimes. And so that would be potentially an opportunity for the jury, if they cannot agree unanimously on one of the more serious offenses, to say, okay, let's split the baby here and let's agree on a lower offense. Although those charges do still carry very significant penalties.
All right, Danya Perry and David Henderson, thank you both. Really, that was very clarifying. Appreciate it.